on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog has said Iran could produce enriched uranium within months, contradicting US President Donald Trump's assertion that Tehran's nuclear program was obliterated. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar will be in the US till the 2nd of July to attend the Quad 4 Ministers meeting set to take place on the 1st of July. World powers are scrambling to secure trade deals with the US before President Donald Trump's pause on his Liberation Day tariffs ends on the 9th of July. India's trade team has extended its stay in Washington, while new fractures have emerged within the European Union. The US Senate narrowly votes to advance US President Donald Trump's tax and spending package as the White House ramps up pressure on lawmakers to pass the measure before the 4th of July. To strengthen its economic immigration framework, Canada will introduce a new permanent pathway to residency this year, building on the foundation of the Economic Mobility Pathways pilot, as per local reports. Russia launched its biggest aerial attack against Ukraine overnight, part of an escalating bombing campaign that has further dashed hopes for a breakthrough in efforts to end the three-year-old war. A big focus, the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog has said Iran could produce enriched uranium within months, contradicting US President Donald Trump's assertion that Tehran's nuclear program was obliterated. Rafael Grossi's remarks echoed an earlier US assessment and European intelligence, suggesting Iran's nuclear ambitions were set back by just months. Senior Iranian officials also reportedly said the US strikes weren't as destructive as they'd expected. While the American attack may have stalled Iran's near-term ability to actually make a bomb, some of the targeted facilities might not have existed if Trump hadn't abandoned an earlier nuclear deal in his first term. This is what experts have told local media. But Trump on Friday had said he would consider bombing Iran again if Tehran enriched uranium to worrisome levels. So while the bombs hit hard, experts are saying that Iran's nuclear ambitions may be down but not out. Listen in to the US president's remarks.
When you went to the Middle East and you strengthened those relationships with all of those countries you just mentioned, Did you have an idea that you would have to do something with regard to Iran? Because you teased it a little. You said, look, they've got to come to the table and talk. Something's going to happen.
Well, it was getting a little bit hot, and we knew they had a lot of sites, probably 3 plus the one, but they had 3 main sites, and we knew they're going to have to either give them up. And I thought we could do it during negotiation, and we just about had it done. And then they said, we want enrichment. Enrichment doesn't mean like air conditioning, and it doesn't mean to jack up your car. Enrichment is a bad word. And I said, you got so much oil, what do you need that for? And they said, well, we need it. And I wouldn't let that happen. I think people wouldn't have understood it if I allowed that to happen. So we had a 60-day talk, and that delayed them a lot. And then we said, let's go at it. And it just worked out. And we wanted to work out also for Iran. They were beaten up, and so was Israel, in all fairness. They were both very tight. We call it the 12-day war. That was an intensive war. But the thing that I wanted to do, and I've said it on your show, if you look back 30 years ago or 25 years, we've been doing your show a long time, and nobody like you. But you look back at the early interviews, I would say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They've wanted this for years, and they were weeks away from getting it. And those pilots went in there with those beautiful planes and the most sophisticated bombs anywhere in the world. Think of it, they can go 30 stories deep into granite. Who would think that's even possible? And they did obliterate it, it turned out. Then we had to suffer the fake news, where the fake news in CNN and the New York Times was saying, well, maybe it wasn't as good as Trump said. Maybe it wasn't totally obliterated, but it was destroyed, but not just horrible.
For an expert's view on the matter, we've got James Bowden joining us on NDTV at the moment. As always, James, a pleasure to have you on our show. Has this development shifted the regional consensus on nuclear containment? And how are Iran's Arab neighbors interpreting this warning from the UN nuclear watchdog and also Trump's renewed threat?
I think that the Arab region is going through a lot of different reactions and looking at a lot of different things. The Arab region is very concerned because they are, as I've been saying time and again, caught between 2 very powerful forces right now. And so the most specific response that we have seen came from the GCC, which announced that any attack from Iran would be met, any one attack on them, on any individual country, would be responded by all. The developments in the nuclear situation, I think, are too early to impact policy at this moment. Everybody is still trying to argue the politics of the strikes, and we've yet to see any of real firm results from the strikes. And so I think that it's going to be probably 2 to 3 months before we can really understand what the Arab response is going to be.
Meanwhile, James, do regional intelligence and military actors actually believe that Iran is months away from a breakout capability, or is there skepticism on ground zero?
I think that there is still skepticism. The politics of this story has really driven everybody to maximalist positions or minimalists. You've got it accomplished absolutely nothing, and you've got Donald Trump on the other side saying it accomplished everything and obliterated it. And this is why you really need to not be a politician who's trying to drive that narrative, because it really appears to have been somewhere in the middle. I just want to really reinforce that, whether it was months or whether it was a few years that Iran has been pushed back, they have been pushed back.
Right.
But Donald Trump really wants to seek that maximalist narrative, and that's really damaged his ability to kind of scale back and get back to the reality of the situation, which is very unfortunate for him. And it's also bad for the region because nobody knows how to correctly calibrate their response at the moment.
Indeed. Also, James, are there any signals of whether Iran is leveraging this latest UN watchdog statement domestically, also across its regional media networks?
Well, the Iranians are always going to take the best possible news and use it for their purposes. I mean, they are a very strong propaganda state, as a lot of the states are. So I have not seen any immediate uses of this report in the
Okay.
media, but we will see.
Of course, we'll keep a close eye on all the key developments with you, James. As always, thank you so much for making time for us.
My pleasure.
Meanwhile, Israel's attack on the Evin prison in Iran's capital, Tehran, on the 23rd of June killed 71 people. This is what the Iran judiciary has confirmed. At the end of an air war with Iran, Israel struck Tehran's most notorious jail for political prisoners in a demonstration that it was expanding its targets beyond military and nuclear sites to aim at symbols of Iran's ruling system. Well, let's switch tracks now to the other big story we're tracking. India's trade team has extended its stay in Washington to iron out differences as the two sides look to clinch a deal before the 9th of July deadline, when higher US tariffs are set to kick in. The in-person negotiations, our sources have informed us, were initially supposed to run through the 27th of June, but were extended by a day, raising hopes of an interim trade deal. Both sides have dug in their heels over a few key issues, including Washington's demand that India open its market to genetically modified crops. My colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar has been tracking all the details for us very closely. He joins us live at the moment with a quick update. Rishabh, what's the lowdown before that 9th of July deadline?
Right, Parmeshwar, what we picked up and what we're also given to understand is that Indian negotiators in Washington have extended their stay for at least one additional day. And all of this comes for this crucial July 9 deadline, this 90-day tariff pause deadline, which is sort of looming over like a spot of Damocles. What we're also given to understand is that talks were facing some sort of hurdles and obstacles, given the fact that US was insistent on broad market access within India for its agricultural as well as dairy produce, both of which are extremely sensitive sectors for Indian farmers, given that we are still a very, very large agrarian economy. But we've also picked up that Indian negotiators are not willing to budge on that, at least in this interim trade deal or this mini trade deal that is being looked to reach before the July 9 deadline. This also, again, is coinciding with this crucial Secretary of State visit that is being planned by the Ministry of External Affairs. We're seeing Marco Rubio come to India before that. So both of them very important diplomatic as well as economical events coming up for India and the US.
Always, thanks so much for joining us with the latest details. As my colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar was mentioning, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar will visit the United States until the 2nd of July. This is at the invitation of the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And during this visit, he will take part in the next edition of the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. That's scheduled for the 1st of July in Washington, D.C. Now, the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting will continue discussions from their last meeting that was held in Washington, D.C. back in January on the 21st. They are expected to share views on important regional and global issues, especially those related to the Indo-Pacific. In fact, let's go across to my colleague Mohammad Ghazali, who's kept a close eye on the key developments and the plan of action. Ghazali, take us through Dr. Jaishankar's POA as far as his touchdown in the US is concerned.
Parma, the significance of the visit is that it is happening in the backdrop of multiple events which have happened in the last couple of months. One, that Operation Sindoor was concluded. Indian Prime Minister has spoken to Mr. Trump. We already know that the Prime Minister spoke to Mr. Trump on the sidelines of G7 as well. Then we know that how the situation in West Asia was since Iran and Israel conflict was happening, and India had already spoken to both the partners. So Indian Foreign Minister will also be able to brief his US counterpart on what were the developments, what was Iran's stand, and how the entire thing unfolded. But it is very significant also due to the fact that by July 9th is a deadline when the tariff which the US is imposing on India will kick in. So before that, this meeting is very significant, and we'll get to know about the status of the bilateral trade agreement between India and the United States as well.
As always, Ghazali, thanks so much for breaking down the latest details for us. Meanwhile, the Republican-controlled U.S. Senate advanced President Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill in a key procedural vote late on Saturday, raising the odds that lawmakers will be able to pass his big, beautiful bill in the coming days. Now, the measure, Trump's top legislative goal, passed its first procedural hurdle in a 51-49 vote, with 2 Republican senators voting against it. The result actually came hours after negotiations as Republican leaders and Vice President J.D. Vance sought to persuade last-minute holdouts in a series of closed-door negotiations. You must note, though, the billionaire tech entrepreneur Elon Musk criticized the latest version of Donald Trump's sprawling tax and spending bill, calling it utterly insane and destructive. The latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. This is what Elon Musk wrote as the Senate was scheduled to call a vote to open debate on this nearly 1,000-page bill. Musk added, it's utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. So the bill, which still has to pass a final House vote, if it clears the Senate, has challenged Republicans' congressional majority and exposed party fault lines. This is something that 2 Republicans had highlighted as well. But for further clarity on the matter, let's go across to Washington, D.C. Robert Moran joins us. He's a data-driven strategist and an author. Robert, pleasure to have you on our show. We're given to understand that hurdles still remain, with several Republican senators still wanting changes to this bill, which would actually cut taxes and bolster military spending while shrinking the safety net on programs like Medicaid. How do you assess the passage if it happens?
This bill will pass. It will pass Congress. It will be signed into law before the 4th of July. It will be a big win for the president and for the Republicans. You know, as you know, the legislative process is not pretty. It's not pretty, but this is a must-pass bill for Donald Trump and for the Republicans because they need to get this legislation done so they can move on to the next thing. As your reporting noted, it's very important for the economy. The tax cuts will help the economy, but they need to finish this bill so they can move on and focus on the tariffs and negotiating all of these bilateral trade deals. They need to refocus their attention on the economy. And they also need to think about how they can find a way to wind down the war in Ukraine. So this is going to be a big win for the president. It's not going to be pretty. The bill has to bounce back and forth between the 2 chambers, as you know, but they will get a deal. There will be a deal, and it will be voted and signed into law.
Considering the optimism so far on how there will be a deal, we're given to understand that it entails higher funds for deportations, spending cuts for things like food stamps, while also raising the debt limit by $5 trillion. So, Robert, how exactly is this going to affect the average American?
Right. In reality, it will not affect the average American much at all. For most Americans, probably the most important thing is there is a portion of language in the bill that says that there will be no tax on tips. And many Americans work for cash and receive tips, and there would be no tax on tips. But you're right. In order to get this bill into balance, they have to cut things because they're trying to extend these very large tax cuts. For them, it's very important to get these tax cuts done as a way to increase economic activity before the midterm elections. That's what they care about.
Okay.
And so they also need a fast deal because the longer it takes them to get a deal, the more likely the deal could unravel. That's why they pushed it through the Senate so quickly, only 51-49. They don't have large majorities. They have a very small majority in the House. That is the problem. It's not the Senate. The House is the problem.
Well, we'll keep a close eye on all the latest developments with you, Robert. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's see if this bill is passed before that 4th of July deadline. On that note, we're slipping into a very quick break. On the other side, we get you details on Canada's new permanent pathway to residency. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. Well, to strengthen its economic immigration framework, Canada will introduce a new permanent pathway to residency in 2025, building on the foundation of the Economic Mobility Pathways pilot, according to local media reports. In fact, the initiative aims to offer displaced individuals and skilled refugees a stable route to live and work in Canada. The announcement is part of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada's departmental plan for the year 2025-26. Maha Siddiqui has been tracking the latest for us. She joins us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, do we have details about the eligibility criteria and program structure, or are they still awaited?
Well, the eligibility here will be that you have to be a skilled refugee or a displaced person, and the documents need to be furnished for that, or from an IRCC-approved partner. It has to be clarified that the person is a refugee or a displaced person, but the skills need to be there. The skills that are required in the labor market in Canada, which is already outlined under what they call the NOC or Tier 1, 2, 3, those need to be in place before the person is before the person can avail this pathway for a PR. But there is a caveat here, Parmeshwar, and I'll point that out. This is at the moment speculated that this will become a permanent pathway for PR. At the moment, this was a pilot project that was launched in 2018 till 2023, then extended to December 2025. It has been fairly successful. This year, we are seeing that the no job offer stream has already closed in half the year, because there are the number of applicants that they require already there. As far as the other ways of getting into the EMPP is concerned, which is this pilot program that we're talking about, there is the Atlantic immigration, the provincial and the regional immigration, which is for the northern territories, that again at the moment has been closed. So you can clearly see the number of people coming in through this pathway, which is a pilot program so far, is already fairly robust. And therefore, at the moment, it is being speculated that this will be turned into a permanent pathway for PR after December 31st this year. But we have to wait for a final word from IRCC.
Of course. Thank you so much, Maha, as always, for breaking down the details for us. With that, let's turn our attention to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, Russia has launched its largest air attack since the war began, firing over 500 aerial weapons at Ukraine. Kyiv says 477 drones and decoys, along with 60 missiles, were unleashed, with 475 shot down. Still, the strikes hit regions far from the front line, killing at least 2 and injuring 12, including children. President Zelensky says this attack proves Putin isn't serious about peace and is urging stronger international support and US air defense systems. But amid this chaos, Ukraine is now moving to withdraw from a global landmine ban, citing Russia's use of banned weapons. As you can tell, this war is escalating, and Ukraine says global pressure is needed now more than ever. Atlantic Council's Ukraine editor Peter Dickinson spoke to NDTV earlier regarding the latest developments. Here's what Mr. Dickinson told NDTV.
What are your comments on the massive attack launched by Russia on Ukraine? And, there seems to be no let-up. And though there have been some signs of a possible peace, now it almost appears impossible in a hopeless situation, sir.
Last night's bombing was the latest in a series of such attacks. It was, the Ukrainians say it was the largest single bombing attack of the entire war. Now that's difficult to quantify because Russia uses different types of ordnance in these attacks. So it's hard to compare in terms of quantities, in terms of the drones they use, the different types of missiles and so forth. But it was certainly one of the biggest. And this has been an ongoing trend that we've seen in recent months, essentially since January, since Donald Trump returned to the White House. So clearly, we're not moving towards peace. There's almost no sign that we're moving toward any sort of settlement. On the contrary, Russia is escalating its air attacks. The volumes we're seeing now are around double what we were seeing last December before Trump was inaugurated. So the trend is quite clearly away from a peace settlement, and the only real talk of peace we're hearing is coming from America. The Ukrainians themselves have said they're ready for a ceasefire. They said that back in March. Russia so far has refused to join them in supporting a ceasefire, and everything we're seeing from the Russian side indicates that Putin doesn't really have any interest at all in ending the war. On the contrary, he's looking to push ahead and gain more ground.
Switching tracks, a heat wave continues to grip large parts of Europe, with authorities in many countries issuing health warnings amid searing temperatures. Southern Spain is the worst affected region, with temperatures in the mid-40s Celsius recorded in neighboring areas as well. If you're holidaying in Europe this summer, brace yourself. It's not just the gelato that's melting. A massive record-smashing heat wave is sweeping across Europe, turning iconic cities into virtual ovens. With temperatures soaring past the 45 degrees Celsius mark in places like Spain and Italy, several countries have issued red and amber health warnings. If we talk about Spain, El Granado just broke its all-time June record with a blistering 46 degrees Celsius. And southern Spain is the worst hit. Locals say even fans are giving up. In Barcelona, a woman tragically died after working outdoors in the extreme heat. And Italy's hospitals, they are reporting a surge in heat stroke. The elderly, cancer patients, and the homeless are most at risk. Cities like Bologna and Naples are opening cooling shelters and also giving free pool access to seniors. Believe it or not, in Lisbon, pharmacists are warning tourists to avoid stepping out all day when the sun is out because burns and exhaustion cases are rising. Serbia hit its highest ever temperature, and Slovenia and North Macedonia, well, they clocked over 40 degrees Celsius. So what exactly is behind the scorching heat? Well, a stubborn high-pressure zone is trapping dry, hot air over Europe. The result? A heat dome that's cooking the continent, and scientists say climate change is making such extreme heat waves 10 times more likely than before industrial times. So if you are heading to the continent for your summer holidays, hydrate regularly, yes, even if you're sipping Aperol, and try and avoid going out between 12 to 5 p.m. Meanwhile, anyone who lights up on a beach or in a public park in France will be breaking the law under new rules aimed at protecting children from the dangers of passive smoking. Bus shelters and areas in the immediate vicinity of libraries, swimming pools, and schools will also be affected by the smoking ban. And the rule is being imposed 1 week before the beginning of the school holidays in France in a clear bid to immediately protect children from smoke on the beach. However, to the disappointment of some anti-tobacco activists, the ban does not cover the terrace of bars and restaurants where many French still happily light up. They're also unhappy that the ban does not apply to e-cigarettes. Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault lines with Gauri Dwivedi. only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show on NDTV 24/7. I'm Divyavada. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including details of Shefali Jariwala's mystery that shrouds her death, and also the dissent within the Congress party in Karnataka. And it's Jariwala who is going to be firefighting in the state of Karnataka today. He's headed there, and we will be getting you all the details when it comes to the threat in Iran. That and a whole lot more on The Breakfast Show. First, let's get you the headlines. Mystery shrouds Shefali Jariwala's death. All eyes on the post-mortem report, which is likely to be out today. Foul play so far has been ruled out. Karnataka Chief Minister's war explodes amid rising dissenting MLA voices against the Chief Minister. While the Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar is meeting with the Congress Chief, we're talking about Mallikarjun Kharge, while Congress troubleshooter Randeep Surjewala is in Bengaluru today in order to hold meetings within the party. Maharashtra government cancels the order on Hindi languages ahead of the assembly session. The move is in the face of Thackeray cousins uniting over Marathi pride. And the Amarnath Yatra trial run is taking place. These are trial runs that are being conducted at the base camp for the Amarnath Yatra to review arrangements for the upcoming pilgrimage. Amarnath Yatra is starting on Thursday, the 3rd of July. A cockroach has been found in the prasad. This is the Laddu Prasad in a temple in Andhra Pradesh. Deputies are expressing outrage and condemn the incident. This is a cockroach that was found inside the laddu, which a man had purchased for his children. And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar heads to the United States for a 3-day visit. The External Affairs Minister to attend the Quad of Foreign Ministers meet. And in Tehran, there could be enriching uranium in months' time, is what the UN body, the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, has gone on to say that Iran could produce enriched uranium within months, contradicting the US President Donald Trump's claim that Tehran's nuclear program was severely damaged. And US Senate pushes Trump's big, beautiful bill. It's Elon Musk critiques. This is Donald Trump's tax and spending bill. So the US Senate, they're narrowly voting to advance Donald Trump's tax and spending package as the White House ramps up pressure on lawmakers to pass the measure before the 4th of July. Let's get to your top story, and this is in regard to the mystery that surrounds the death of Shefali Jariwala. Now, according to the police, Mumbai cops suspect that the deceased actor was taking heavy doses of anti-aging medicines, multivitamins, as well as skin whitening medicines for many years without the supervision of a doctor, raising questions whether this could be a case of self-medication. Well, the police have found a large number of medicines inside her fridge, inside a drawer and a table in Shefali's room, which includes anti-aging medications like glutathione. And that is raising concerns as to the kind of extent that actors go to in order to preserve their looks or perhaps to fight the aging that takes place over years. Paras, my colleague, joining us to get us the very latest. Paras, the post-mortem report is expected to be out today, but so far they've ruled out any kind of foul play. But questions are being raised as to the kind of treatments, the kind of medication that she was on, considering that the police has said that there was a lot of medication which revolved around anti-aging pills that are found inside her house, inside her fridge, inside her room as well. And that is raising questions as to, there could have been an overdose perhaps of these anti-aging treatments, or perhaps something didn't suit her.
This is the part of an investigation which Mumbai police is doing right from the first day when they received the information that Shefali Jariwala is no more. After that, Mumbai police is continuously investigating in this matter, and they don't want to lag behind in this case. So that's why they are taking all precautionary measures which is needed in this type of cases, and that's why there are major protocols which has been followed. And in this entire matter, the major thing is the post-mortem report. The preliminary post-mortem report can come out today, and it will be very, very important to see what exactly the cause of death is in this entire matter. There was some blood reports and some other tests which was freezed by the doctors who done the post-mortem on the first day when this entire situation happened. So there are major updates in this entire case after the post-mortem report will come out. There are many speculation which is happening, but there may be some other angle also, but there is no confirmation on it, and that's why the investigation by Mumbai police is still on in this entire matter. But for now, foul play has been ruled out by Mumbai police, as our other reporters has also reported in this entire matter. And now it will be very, very important to see what post-mortem report says, the preliminary post-mortem report says.
Right, take us through what do we know in this case, particularly so far, given the fact that the police has completely ruled out, any kind of foul play in the case. But take us through, what is it that the police has divulged, the kind of details that have come out in the case so far.
So in this entire matter, police is still investigating what was the exact situation, what has happened. There are more than 10 people whose statement has been recorded by Mumbai police in this entire matter. There may be a different angle, and that's why Mumbai police is also investigating and not taking any chances, and that's why they are seeing all the angles in this entire case. There has not been any official things from Mumbai police till now, but the most important thing in this entire matter is the post-mortem report, which can come out today, the preliminary post-mortem report. And in the post-mortem preliminary report, we will able to see what has exactly happened to Shefali Jariwala. There has been many things about the anti-aging medicines that she was taking, and there may be many things more, and many things can come out. But for now, the only official update is that Mumbai police is investigating in this matter very thoroughly, and they are not taking any chances and following all the protocols and investigating in this matter.
Right, many reactions coming in as well, and including Priyanka Chopra, who's gone on to say so shook, she was so young, and sending condolences to the family at this grieving time. Thank you, Paras, for joining us. Switching tracks now, there's a disarray in the Karnataka Congress with party MLAs publicly criticizing the government over alleged corruption and poor administration. Recently, MLA B.R. Patil accused the Housing Department of rampant corruption. And while MLA Raju has also spoken of a collapsed administration, saying that it takes months, 6 months of waiting time, which is embarrassing the ruling party. Meanwhile, the Congress MLA also, when we're talking about Iqbal Hussain, hinting at a possible leadership change this year with DK Shivkumar likely to take charge. So, of course, these are the murmurs that have been doing the rounds, and the opposition parties are seizing this moment to demand the resignation when it comes to Sitaramayya and the housing minister as well. Now, Sitaramayya has promised to address these issues after meeting the concerned MLAs. And, while, Sitaramayya has been gone on a record to say, where's the dissent? He is, of course, denying any sort of issues and problems within the party. But today it's going to be Randeep Surjewala who's going to be firefighting inside the state itself. He is going to be in Bengaluru. First, listen in to the reactions coming in.
ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳು ಬರ್ತಿದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂತಂದರೆ ಕೆಲವರು ಗುಂಪುಗಳು ಇರ್ತವೆ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಊಹಾಪೋಹಗಳನ್ನು ಅವರು ಹಡೆಯುವಂಥ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಮೊದಲಿಂದನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಬಂದಾಗಿಂದನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೈಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಮುಂದೆನೂ ಕೂಡ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ, ಶಾಸಕರು ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರ ಪರವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೈಕಮಾಂಡು ಕೂಡ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಂಥ ಸೂಚನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ 5 ವರ್ಷ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ ಅವರು ಮುಂದುವರಿತಾರೆ.
ಇದು ಹೈಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಗಮನದಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಹೈಕಮಾಂಡು ಸೂಕ್ತವಾದ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೂಕ್ತವಾದ ತೀರ್ಮಾನವನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ, ನಂಬಿಕೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿದೆ.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಸರ್?
ಹೌದು, ಈ ವರ್ಷ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಲ್ಲ, ಈಗೇನು ಇವ್ರು ಕ್ರಾಂತಿಗೆ ಡೇಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 2-3 ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಮಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸರ್ 2-3 ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿ ಕೆ ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ
ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಸುತ್ತಿ ಬಳಸಿ ಏನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಸುತ್ತಿ ಬಳಸಿ ಏನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ, ನಾನು ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪವರ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದಾವೆ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? ಮೊದಲು 13ರಿಂದ 18ರಲ್ಲಿ ಪವರ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಒಂದೇ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು, ಈಗ ಪವರ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದಾವೆ. 1, 2, 3 ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಈ ಪವರ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಗಳು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಜಂಜಾಟನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಆ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಅನುಗುಣವಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಸರ್ಕಾರವನ್ನ ಪಕ್ಷವನ್ನ ನಡೆಸಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಅದು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನುಭವ ಇರಬಹುದು. 13-18 ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಅದು ಬಹುತೇಕ ಜನರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯನೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದಿದೆ.
फाइल हिलता ही नहीं. एक फाइल एक सरकार एक नियमावली करना, एक अधिसूचना होना, एक अधिकारी के पास एक फाइल इतना दिन रहना. हमारा नौकर है, सरकारी नौकर, वो सब अच्छा तरह काम करे तो हमारा काम अच्छा होता है. एक बार किया और करने के बाद सीएम चुप बैठा, क्या बोला नहीं, माना हमको सीएम हमको क्या बुलाया नहीं, हमसे बातचीत नहीं किया, इसलिए हम नाराज हो गए हैं.
मैं तो ऑन किया हूँ ना, मेरा ही आवाज़ है, मैंने बात किया हूँ. आज भी मैं बोल रहा हूँ, मैंने बात किया हूँ, मेरा आवाज़ ये है, इससे क्या ज़्यादा चाहिए.
My colleague Deepak joining us from Bengaluru. Deepak, a very crucial meeting coming up, and this is the Congress General Secretary in charge of Karnataka who will be holding these individual meetings. But this really comes at a time when there could be a possible leadership change, is what is being hinted by people within the party. But take us through the demands of the people and the possible, what all is going to be on the agenda during this meeting that's coming up in Bengaluru.
Well, 2 different aspects that the Congress High Command will have to deal with. One is, of course, within the Congress, legislators, talking about rampant corruption, talking about maladministration, saying that work is not happening on time, the government officials are not working in sync with the needs of the people, and a host of other issues that they're pointing out that exists within the administration. The Chief Minister has held a round of talks, the Deputy Chief Minister has held a round of talks, now the High Command is going to hold a round of talks with the legislators. Then the other problem is, of course, repeated statements about a leadership change. Why is this coming in? Because in the past as well, the High Command has, of course, said don't speak about this. But now, as we inch closer to that 2.5-year mark, there was a speculation when the government was formed who is going to become the Chief Minister. It was decided that Mr. Siddaramaiah will become the Chief Minister, but there was talk that there was a power-sharing formula that was in play. Now, as we approach that 2.5-year mark, multiple legislators are continuing to make these sort of statements. I'm told that the High Command is once again going to put out clear instructions not to make these sort of statements. We've heard from Yatindra Siddaramaiah Ramaiah completely back his father, say that the High Command has backed him. There's no question of a change. There are some legislators who are backing Mr. D.K. Shivakumar who are coming out repeatedly making statements that, well, wait for a couple of months, there is change in order. So we'll really have to see how the High Command really fixes these sort of problems.
Right, Deepak, all eyes on that meeting coming up, and we will keep coming back to you for the very latest. Moving on now to Andhra Pradesh, and let's get you the latest in regard to a cockroach that's been found in a laddu at a temple in Andhra Pradesh, causing a stir amongst devotees. Now, the incident which reportedly occurred on the 29th of June involved a devotee finding the cockroach after purchasing that prasad for his children. Devotees expressed outrage and demanded action against those responsible for the unsanitary conditions. And this is really coming about amid a row over that alleged presence of animal fat in Tirupati laddus. Now, a cockroach has been found in another temple prasad. Let's switch tracks now to Maharashtra and a major flip-flop as far as the education policy in the state is concerned. The government has scrapped both resolutions on the three-language formula after a backlash over the alleged Hindi imposition in Marathi schools. The Chief Minister of the state, Devendra Fadnavis, now says an expert panel led by Dr. Narendra Jadhav will decide how and when to really implement the policy, if at all. But politically, the fire has already spread. We have my colleague Radhika joining us to get us the latest, but we have Uddhav Thackeray speaking on the issue. Listen in.
आम्ही दादा भुसेंना सांगितलं, दादा भुसेंनी काही लोकांशी संपर्क देखील सुरू केलाय, पण मला असं वाटतं की याच्यावर चुकीच्या पद्धतीचं राजकारण जे आहे हे करणं चाललंय आणि म्हणून आज मंत्रिमंडळाच्या बैठकीमध्ये आम्ही याच्यावर सांगोपांग चर्चा केली आणि म्हणून 16 एप्रिल 2025 आणि 17 जून 2025 हे दोन्ही शासन निर्णय आम्ही रद्द करण्याचा निर्णय घेतलेला आहे. हे दोन्ही शासन निर्णय या ठिकाणी रद्द आम्ही करतो.
सरकारची शक्ती हरलेली आहे. मराठी माणूस एकवटला तर मराठी माणसाची शक्ती ही सरकारच्या शक्तीला हरवून देऊ शकते. हे पुन्हा एकदा सिद्ध झालं. अशीच चळवळ संयुक्त महाराष्ट्राच्या वेळेला सुद्धा झाली होती. त्याही वेळेला मराठी माणसांनी तर तेव्हाच आणि आत्ताचं आंदोलनाची तुलना करता नाही येणार, परंतु सगळेजण पक्षभेद विसरून एकत्र झाले आणि त्यावेळेला हा डाव उधळला होता. आजही हा डाव उधळून टाकलेला आहे.
Radhika joining us to get us the very latest. Radhika, this really comes about as far as this move is concerned, the face of the Thackeray cousins uniting over that Marathi pride, and therefore, this has been put off for now at least.
Absolutely, this is a huge political development, also seen as a victory as far as the opposition parties are concerned. The Maharashtra government, they're really withdrawing the decision to make Hindi the default third language. We know for a fact that multiple GRs had been issued. Hindi was made the third language, default third language. Also, it was not made mandatory, but there was a lot of public outcry and backlash over this. So now Devendra Fadnavis, they're announcing that this decision has been withdrawn. An expert committee will be formed, has been formed, and they will make a decision on how to really implement this three-language policy. A report will be submitted. This is seen as a victory for the opposition parties. We know for a fact that both Uddhav Thackeray and Raj Thackeray had taken separate press conferences, made separate announcements about a rally that they will be conducting, protesting against government's decision. Later, they decided to do it together. So that is something that may have cost Mahayuti government dearly if both the Thackeray estranged brothers had come together to protest against this three-language policy. Soon after that, the government decided to go on back foot and decided to backtrack on its decision. Of course, Uddhav Thackeray had called this three-language policy, or rather the so-called Hindi imposition, as language emergency. Raj Thackeray had said this is a way to undermine the people of Maharashtra and Marathi Manus and so on. a lot of criticism as far as the government is concerned by the opposition, and then the government really backtracking and deciding to withdraw it. This has been called as a win of Marathi Manus by both Uddhav Thackeray as well as Raj Thackeray. We'll have to see how this will politically play out. But for now, the government has done some sort of damage control after opposition as well as public outcry over the so-called Hindi imposition.
Right. Thank you so much, Radhika, for getting us those details. Moving on now, a chilling CCTV video has emerged showing the 24-year-old law student being dragged by two men inside the South Calcutta Law College, where she was allegedly gang-raped on the 25th of this month. The police say she was targeted after she rejected a marriage proposal. So far, 4 people have been arrested in the case, including the TMC youth leader. The case has sparked a war within the Trinamool Congress, and this is the MP Kalyan Banerjee as well as Madan Mitra, who have blamed the victim, drawing outrage and a party show cause notice, which is now being, of course, this really comes at a time when there are protests that are mounting, and then SIT probe is the pressure is rising for justice. And this really comes at a time when, of course, there are a lot of barbs being exchanged, and particularly as far as the opposition in the state is concerned. My colleague Shefali joining us to get us the very latest. Shefali, get us to, when we talk about Manojit Mishra, who has been charge-sheeted in multiple criminal cases. So he is we have seen previously as well, there have been criminal cases against him across several Kolkata police stations. And here we have, people really defending the man.
Well, of course, we did show that there is a history of this Manojit Mishra. And speaking to the cops also who are currently looking into this particular gang rape case, they say that Manojit Mishra would use his political power to really threaten people and get work done. Of course, the entire case is under investigation currently. And as you said, yes, the CCTV footage also holds importance. The police have not only seized the CCTV footage of the college, but also outside on the road to ascertain the movements of the accused as well as the victim. So, of course, the police is investigating thoroughly, and the entire incident has shocked everyone here in West Bengal. And as you mentioned, the political pressure only rising on the Trinamool Congress. And amidst that, we have seen how the Trinamool Congress leaders are bickering amongst themselves. On one hand, Kalyan Banerjee and Mahua Moitro are locked in a war of words on social media. On the other hand, MLA Madan Mitra had made outrageous comments regarding the victim on how she should not have been alone over there, or she should have taken someone along with her to her own college campus. Now, while Madan Mitra has been served a show cause notice by the Trinamool Congress and asked to respond within 3 days, no such action has been taken against Kalyan Banerjee. But of course, the political heat on the Trinamool Congress only increasing now.
Right, Shefali, thank you so much for getting us all those details. We have